We're back at it, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. It's going to be a little bit of a serious one today, just because this is probably one of those trials and cases that is, at least it's important to me for the film industry, and I'm talking about the Rust trial. There were a couple of Rust trials that were at least public, right? There's a few civil lawsuits against Alec Baldwin. I think Hannah Gutierrez Reed, who's the armor, also filed something with Sarah Zachary, who is the prop master. But we're gonna talk about the more public of the trials, which are two, being Hannah Gutierrez Reed and Alec Baldwin. Hannah Gutierrez Reed trial was an interesting one because, well, first off, there are some pod eppies that I made not too long ago that details this, and I posted all those podcast episodes in real time while the trial was going on. Yeah, I mean, I had a week where I wasn't, doing much. So I figured, fuck it, I'm going to learn about everything about this case. And I did. So just like the quickest recap, and I definitely implore you to watch those pod episodes because it's really interesting. All those days, I think it was like 9 days, and I started it on day 4, and I just carried it through the rest of the week. So the Hannah Gutierrez case was about this armor, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, who, if y'all don't know the armor, they're basically in charge of all of the weapons and everything in safety. When it comes to those said weapons. And it doesn't necessarily have to be guns. I've seen armorers, who are, who handle with swords, who've handled with like axes, who've handled with all sorts of weapons that, it can really fucking hurt people and shit like that. And so they are essentially experts and, facilitators of bringing out the weapons to all the actors, showing them, how it works, the safety precautions and all that. And they're there from rehearsals to picture up to, handing them back to the armorers. And I've only worked with 2 armorers, but I think, yeah, I worked with two armorers, and both of them were only the case of using dummy rounds. And so, I never really got to hear or see any blank bullet play, where it's like you load a gun with blanks and you shoot them off and it sounds like a real gun, but it's ideally not, hence blanks. So I've only worked with dummy rounds or inert rounds, and those just don't fire off. There's no, there's nothing in the bullets. There's nothing. It's just a hollow ass case, and when you shoot it, it's just like it doesn't do anything. And that's what I've worked with, and people who are armors take that job very, very seriously. It doesn't matter if it's a rubber gun. It doesn't matter if it's a, some random. For a second, I thought I wasn't recording. I for a second, I saw the red little light and it wasn't blinking for a minute, and I was like, shit. But we're good. We're here. So armors are insanely important, and they're an essential part of safety in the overall set. And yeah, like I got to work with, because they are technically part of art department, even though they are their own department, they still work with art, because art, deals with props and set dressing, and that's my jam, So I don't really have many opportunities to work with armor, so it's always nice to kind of bend their ear a little bit and ask a shit ton of questions that they never wanted. And that's what I do, baby. So yeah, I feel like this case was a almost perfect representation of how safety is not only important, but if you don't have the right safety and the right communication, it's inevitably going to fall apart. And there were literally examples leading up to the incident where on October 21st, 2021, the DP, director of photography, Halyna Hutchins, and Joel Souza were blocking a scene with Alec Baldwin. And Alec Baldwin, during this blocking rehearsal, had a prop gun. And he cocked the gun, fired it, like as if they were filming, and they weren't. There's no cameras rolling. And fatally shot and killed the DP, Halyna Hutchins, and struck Joel Souza, the director. And it was a horrible tragedy that could have been prevented from multiple steps, but also like other events that happened. Like there were discharges that happened. One by I think it was a stunt double, or something. They were like firing off some rounds, and there was like a loud pop, and I think there was a live bullet. And a key thing about this shoot was that there were more than 5 live rounds on this set on Rust. Now, did it come from the armor? Did it come from prop master? Did it come from, the prop house? That was still kind of like up in the air, although all directions were leading back to the prop house, which definitely had live rounds there, even though, they all say that they have a system, even Hannah, the armorer, and this prop house guy, his name is Seth Kinney, and he facilitated all of the weapons and all of the ammo that were used on that shoot. And there was an investigation, of course, where they found these said live bullets. The same ones? I don't think so, but there's going to be more on that a little bit later. So they so there was a whole investigation with that, and there were discharges that happened. Maybe accidental, but definitely negligent for sure. And this happened once with the stunt double. I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere, so I could be wrong. But another one that was probably the most important was the armor, or not the armor, the prop master, Sarah Zachary, who ideally should not be firing a gun. Although I knew that there were days on that shoot where they needed all hands on deck for the armor, because there were a lot of weapons, a lot of guns that were being fired by like multiple, people on horseback and stuff like that. So, you need all the help you can get, although that's shouldn't be a problem if you had an expert props master who understood weapons, but she didn't. And they didn't hire anybody else to assist the armor. So that was already bad fucking news, and she essentially, fired off a gun and didn't bother to call it out or announce it or anything. Just fucking fired the gun. And there were discharges, and it made the entire crew uncomfortable. And there has been, multiple days of these things that made the crew uncomfortable, to the point where the camera department, the night before, sent a letter to the producers, and I think to the unit production manager, and I don't remember her name. But the unit production manager, for those of you who don't know, essentially like issue out like all of the deal memos, and usually work close with producers on like what kind of things, like what kind of like materials they would need, and also payroll, on like what people need to be there or not be there, all that stuff, right? So the camera department let her know, and and the UPM, the unit production manager, understood and accepted their resignation, and the camera crew left. And they talked about other things too, like pay, but that's neither here nor there. That's more of a civil issue rather than a criminal issue, like these public trials that have been going on. So the camera crew left, and that day, the next day, October 21st, I guess they hired local crew, or they were sending local New Mexico crew, camera department to go and be on that shoot. And I also have another podcast with my mentor, Christine Chen, the Get Realisms podcast. And we had a first AD, great guy. His name is Glenn. He was also not there at that shoot, but he was just down the street at another ranch where the shooting took place. So yeah, getting his 2 cents onto it was really, really fascinating and interesting. So check it out and Get Realisms. There was a lot of shit going on, a lot of moving pieces, and not once did the armorer, which is Hannah, the first AD on that shoot, which his name was Dave Halls, and Sarah Zachary, who also handled those said weapons with barely any training, if any training at all, including Seth Kinney, who supplied those weapons. He wasn't on set, but he's most certainly supplied those weapons and ammunition. So that was those are the characters that we are focusing on the entire time, right? So Dave Halls, who's a safety coordinator, after the incident happened, gave his statement, and in exchange got a plea deal with probation and never stepped foot into jail. He got he got away. He got out, essentially. Probably an early retirement, because I know I wouldn't trust somebody like him to run a shoot, because being the first assistant director is, it's literally a very huge, big position. You are in charge of the schedule. You are in charge of making sure everything is running on time. Because without it, you're just going to be running the clock every single day. You're going to fall behind really quickly, and things are just going to get lost in the cracks, and nobody wants that. So you always respect the first ADs, and a lot of people, a lot of times, yell back or yell at the first ADs, because the first ADs essentially are, they're shepherds, if anything. They want to whip, not whip, but like, you know what I mean, just like yell to keep going with the day, even though like it is against like the wishes of certain departments. Like, you know, if they're needing more time for lighting or needing more time for art, even I've gotten yelled at by first ADs, although I never really took it personally. And if I did, I probably would have mentioned it during rap, you know, or on another day. But nonetheless, like I've been yelled at. I've played basketball before. I've been yelled at by coaches and shit like that. So it's not out of the norm for me to for that shit to happen. And I don't get yelled at much because you know, I definitely listen and I pay attention, keep my head down, and make sure that I, you know, do my job essentially. So yeah, so Dave Halls, the first AD, got a plea deal. Sarah Zachary, who was the prop master, didn't essentially get anything because she wasn't. That's the other thing that it confuses me a little bit because she was there when the incident happened. And she took some of those weapons. And I don't think the gun, but definitely took some of the other weapons that were around that set and dumped all the bullets into a garbage can. Why did she do that? She just said she was nervous and she just needed to do something. I don't know what that means, but take that with what you will, I guess. You know, I guess if there's like a horrible incident that happens, you just do something that is kind of unordinary and just, you know, make some really stupid decisions. Fine, I guess. But she's not on trial. She has essentially nothing to do with any of the criminal side of it. I think she has something to do with the civil side of it. But I wouldn't know because that's all for the birds, for lawyer shit. Seth Kinney, who was the who ran the prop house that facilitated and you know, supplied the set with the ammo and the weapons and all that. Also didn't get any sort of like, I don't think he got a plea deal, and I think like he, I don't know if he actually requested for immunity. I don't think he did, but it was the same situation with Sarah Zachary, and that is that like, well, they weren't specifically part of that incident. However, they also, you know, kind of participated in questionable things that, you know, had something to do with the discharges leading up to the incident, but the incident themselves, even though Sarah Zachary was part of it, wasn't really part of it, right? So that cuts them out. They walk around free, you know, totally okay. Now Hannah Gutierrez, the armorer. To just cut it short, Hannah Gutierrez was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter because she was the one who had this said gun on set and could have and should have checked for bullets, checked the guns every single time, kept it locked, kept it safe, and she didn't do any of that. She left the gun kind of out in the open. She had bullets like inside of a fanny pack and inside of like a another bag that she claims that she divides so that she doesn't get bullets confused, but that doesn't fucking matter because, you know, these are fucking bullets. You know, anything can get mixed. It doesn't matter. So none of it was locked. They did have a safe that was on their prop truck, but not where they have a prop cart and should have also have safes in there with keys or keypad combinator or whatever, it doesn't matter, to make sure that none of the bullets and none of the guns and none of anything gets mixed around. And I've seen that with one of the armors on a film shoot before, even though we were working with dummy rounds. Oh, and by the way, dummy rounds are just like rounds that don't fire. They have nothing in the casing. And blank rounds, depending on, if it's a quarter load, half load, or full load, have, the bang, but not the bullet, So depending on the bang and how big you want the bang, those are blanks. And then, of course, live bullets are live bullets. And the thing with Hannah's trial was, how do you tell the difference between a blank and a live round? Short answer is you can't until you check the bullet yourself. And there's when you shake it, there's a little, there's like beads that are in that gun that tells you that it is a blank. So, whether or not that was checked or not checked, it wasn't thoroughly checked, at least not by Hannah Gutierrez. So she was guilty, and she was sentenced to 18 months in prison. And on top of that, she was remanded. And what does that mean? Well, she was essentially taken out of the courtroom in handcuffs and thrown directly into jail. Whereas, like, most of the time when something like that happens, like an involuntary manslaughter case, usually, like, you get like a couple of days, maybe a few days to, do whatever, say your goodbyes, I guess, or, figure out any plans until you leave jail or you don't. So, Hannah didn't get that choice. She was just remanded and dragged out of not dragged, but she was taken out in handcuffs out of the courtroom and placed directly into jail. Seems a little, at least in my opinion, it seemed a little over the top, but that's what the prosecutor wanted. And the prosecutor, who was the state, her name is Carrie Morrissey. She essentially put together this entire case that is against Hannah, or at least the one that is doing the charging, I guess. Made pretty valid points in terms of what Hannah's role was, and made that decision. And this is a theory of mine. Do not follow it and don't act like as if this is something in truth. But in my opinion, I think allegedly, I guess I have to say that, Carrie, the state prosecutor, wanted to remand Hannah as an example to show Alec Baldwin's defense attorneys that she is not fucking around. She is a she is a woman who is ready and willing to take anybody down who created a harmful and unsafe set that Alec Baldwin ran as a producer, as well as being the main actor, participated in, along with Hannah. So, cut to the Alec Baldwin case now. So that was a recap on Hannah's trial. Like I said, I definitely recommend reading about it, watching the previous podcast episodes. I feel like they were interesting. That was a crazy week. Let me tell you, that was a really crazy week. So, the Alec Baldwin trial, first and foremost, they had a pre-trial with Alec Baldwin's trial with his lawyers, basically saying that, like, if this trial was going to happen, well, the court shouldn't recognize Alec Baldwin as a producer because he's only an actor. So the actor, Alec Baldwin, was the one who was involved in the incident, not producer Alec Baldwin, if that makes sense. So essentially, like, him acting and doing what he did, it should just be fallen under him as an actor, full stop. And the state had a really, really good chance to argue about this because, I don't know if anybody has worked on a film shoot before, but producers are usually, not all the time, and not every producer are, but usually are kept in the loop and are informed of things that go in and out of the shoot, no matter what. So, Alec was part of that, right? And he had an interview with George Stephanopoulos, recounting all the details about the shooting, about the Rust incident. And he mentioned that he is a producer, but he's only producer for the actor side. Now, there are producers who are just only in charge of actors. That's just kind of a given. However, that doesn't mean that they are not kept in the loop of anything and everything safety-wise, facilitating like a show and tell that Alec Baldwin barely participated in, and that was when Hannah showed all the safety precautions, or at least like expressed all the safety precautions, and ran these safety meeting by demonstrating and showing all the guns that were there, and Alec wasn't really present. He was there, but he took a phone call and went somewhere else. These are all facts in this case. So the fact that he walked away from even a safety meeting kind of tells you everything as to how serious he took safety on this shoot. So moving on, they only had 3 days of this trial out of the 10 or 11 days, I want to say. Hold on. I had it all written down here. There was like 10. I want to say there was like 10 days or 9 days. 9 days? 10 days. So there were 10 days, and Alec's trial has only been 3. And wait till we get to the fucking ending. You won't believe it. No, but seriously though, the ending of this is it made me rip my hair out. So the first couple of days, it was pretty like any normal trial. They brought in witnesses, they brought in gun experts, and I don't want to bore you with all the shit, right? And they also brought in Seth Kinney, who was the props house guy who provided all that shit, right? The guns and ammo. And he was under the gun. He was grilled a little bit and showed how much, trying to think of the word, unawareness, if that's a word. He had no consideration for the safety that was like on this shoot, and just kept pointing the blame back at Hannah, which, I mean, I guess if it's like a criminal thing, yeah, that's just what you do. I mean, it wasn't your fault, so of course you're going to point it in the direction. However, he still had a responsibility nonetheless. So I felt like that was kind of a crazy thing for him to do, to just essentially throw Hannah under the bus in every direction, which he has. And but that wasn't the worst part. The third day of this trial, and something that was already immediately kind of shot up as a red flag. And I watched this coverage on Emily Baker's stream. She's an ex-lawyer, non-practicing lawyer, and she is incredibly smart about everything between law and all the ins and outs of this case, specifically with all the motions and every single bit of information that came out of this trial, both trials, I should say. she was on top of. And I watched her in the Hannah trial. She's phenomenal. Definitely give her a watch, give her a listen. She's great lawyer, Emily D. Baker. So she explained that the prosecutor on the state side, one of the prosecutors, not Carrie Morrissey, who spearheaded this entire operation, or this case, one of them quit. And this prosecutor, I think her name was Erlinda, I want to say, she was one who gave the opening statements in the first day of the Alec Baldwin trial, and she quit that third day. And nobody knew really why, except for, of course, the state, which is Carrie Morrissey. Nobody kind of knew, so she just kind of packed up her shit and fucking left. And as the day gone by, Alec Baldwin's defense team dropped a fucking bomb, essentially, and said there was pieces of evidence. There was evidence that was not submitted with that case. And that evidence was something that the previous defense attorney that represented Hannah knew about and was aware of, and didn't involve it into his case because it just wouldn't help Hannah's arguments at all. Because this is evidence that had to deal with live bullets, essentially, and where Seth Kinney got those live bullets from that somehow made it onto that shoot. Because this guy had those same live bullets just chilling in his house, I guess, his storage, I don't know. But he brought them in as an example to show that there were, in fact, live rounds. And not only there were live rounds, these are the live rounds that you're looking for. So that wasn't included into Alec Baldwin's case. That was just filed into a completely separate thing. That's a problem. Why? Because I'm not a lawyer, but you need to cover any and all evidence that's going to be submitted and questioned in any case. So if you have something that felt like it was pertinent, or maybe it was kind of pertinent, it doesn't matter. It's all going to get filed within the same case. The state didn't do that. The state, the cops, all agree. They both agreed that, oh, this should just be in a separate case, and the judge did not know this. So the judge was like, "Why wasn't this included?" And the state said, "Well, we just didn't think it was important." And she didn't know. She was like, "Oh, I didn't know." And they're like, "Well, actually, you did know. You had a conversation about this, and they mentioned the conversation." And she's like, "Oh, well, I just didn't think it was pertinent with the case." Whoo! It was bad. It was really bad. So that day, the judge was like, "Cool, this won't work. And I'm going to dismiss the case with prejudice due to a technicality of the state's fuck up." So Alec Baldwin walks away free. And not only walks away free, can never be tried for this same case. For involuntary manslaughter. Can never be tried again. Ain't that some shit? Like, what the? Like, I remember just watching that in real time, and my mind was just blown. I mean, like, it took me fucking 2 weeks just to get this episode out because I wanted to record something that day, but I couldn't. Like, I took a walk, and I was like, there's so much shit rattling in my brain, and I'm too emotional about it because Carrie, in my opinion, the state prosecutor fundamentally failed the very job that she was supposed to do to show as an example to the entire film industry that there is justice that can be made when you do something this negligent and this awful, horrible fucking incident that happened. Because no matter what, whatever movie you are working on, nobody should be hurt. Nobody should get killed. Nobody should lose a fucking life over making pretend. Because that's essentially what we're doing as filmmakers, is that you're just making pretend and you're having fun doing it. That's the whole reason why we're there in the first place. And Carrie Morrissey had almost all of the opportunity to not only make herself shine and make herself look like a fucking rock star, but actually use Alec as an example, in this whole case as an example, to show the entire film industry, essentially, that this will not fucking fly. And safety is not only a essential, it's a priority. This is very fucking important. And there's no reason for anybody to have negligent, like non-safety precautions, like at all. Sorry, I'm a little tired. It's been a long day for me, but yeah, I couldn't fucking believe it. This was supposed to be the case that was like going to be monumental for the film industry, and it just sort of like ended on like a fucking like flat tire that turned into swerving off the road, and then a fucking explosion. It was just a fucking mess. It was a mess. And there was no reason for her to not include pertinent evidence that is part of the case. Now, why did she do this? The only theory I can come up with, and let me know if you guys have any theories on this, but my only theory is that she honestly felt it wasn't pertinent, and she just wanted that to go away. She just didn't want it to be part of it, and see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, right? Wrong. That's not how it works. You know the fucking law. You're a goddamn lawyer. Do your fucking job and actually include shit that's pertinent to the case. Even if it's like not barely pertinent, I would imagine you put in everything. I mean, like there's like trials with like hundreds and maybe even thousands of evidences. Maybe thousands is a little extreme, but at least there's like hundreds. At least there's a lot that goes into a fucking trial, especially with a case like this. There was a lot, and we saw no justice for Halyna Hutchins. Justice in the way that Hannah was dragged out, the armor was dragged out like a fucking animal, because. And I asked somebody who is a lawyer, and they told me that like being remanded is like as if like you are a danger to society. Like if you are a serial killer, literally, or anything of the like, that is a pertinent danger to society. You should be remanded. Like that's just straight up. If they win that trial, they should be remanded. Which I'm like, yeah, that's fair. Why would you do that with a armor who, I mean, listen, they were kind of dumb. They were, in fact, very dumb. And it led to one of the most I was going to say silliest, but like silliest is like, because like this is someone's life. Someone's life was lost. This was such fucking horrible disregard for safety that the first AD nor the prop master nor the prop house, not any of those three, nor Alec, have all been sent to jail. None of them. But the armor is. She's spending over a fucking year. And I feel like that's unnecessary. And I felt that that was unnecessary even back then with when the trial was going on. I just felt like it was a little too intense to give her the maximum sentence for this of 18 months. I just felt it was silly. A few months is still silly, but whatever. Fine. You know what I mean? But 18 months and remanded her? Okay, well, if you're going to do that, you better not miss with the Alec Baldwin trial. I'm just saying. It was fucking bullshit. It was dumb. And there was no reason for any of this to fucking happen. And it kind of blew my mind that Carrie was so... she was so smug about it. The state prosecutor, she was so smug about it. She thought that she had this in the fucking bag, and she didn't. She fumbled the bag. She fumbled the bag hard. This is a trial about someone's fucking life. And this is supposed to be an example as to what we set forth in the film industry henceforth. That's what this whole fucking thing is about. But instead, it was about her. It was about the state prosecutor. Now, I mean, I'm curious if anybody disagrees, and if they do, I'd love to have a conversation about it, because again, it feels like there were so many opportunities for her to do the right thing, and she did none of that. And she was salty about it too. Like she was salty to the defense attorneys. When it was like as if like they fucking like killed her goldfish or something. I know she was out for blood. I mean, I guess you could say that that's like her job. Sure, you know, fair enough. But like, do your fucking job. Like, you had your fucking job. You had this trial, and you could have really done some incredible fucking justice. Incredible justice. Should Alec Baldwin be, remanded as well? I mean, look, if you were going to treat the armor like an animal, walks like a duck, talks like a duck, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is, come on, That's just the way that it is. You already set that, precedent. You might as well follow through with it. And yeah, I don't know. So I'm glad I got a chance to talk about this, because honestly, the film industry needs some W's, and between all the strikes and all of the some of the more darker news that I really don't want to get into. It's a little too dark for my blood. But it is there's been some bad things that happened, and like especially me in the industry right now, like there's it's kind of a low point because of an IATSE strike that has been going on this year. And we had the writer's strike and the actor strike last year. And yeah, it slowed everything down. It slowed a lot of things down, and it slowed even the film industry here in Austin down, like by a lot, And every once in a while, I pick up a PA gig here and there. It sucks, but it is what it is. I'd rather do set deck. I'd rather do art department, but you take with what you can get. And I wanted to see great justice, and we essentially did not see that. And this state prosecutor had one fucking job. And they didn't do that, or she didn't do that. So that is about it, I guess, kind of a short episode, right? Anything else to talk about with it? I guess not. I mean, what did you guys think of it? Like, how did y'all feel about the trial, and everything that went on? Because it just like the Alec Baldwin trial was the biggest one. Like, if this was the biggest one, the Armor's trial, Hannah's trial, was like a preliminary, like a warm up to this trial. And that trial, the Armor's trial, was way longer. But because of the prosecutor's fuck up with this, the state's fuck up with this, the court, the judge, responsibly so, Oh, and that's to say, too, that, like, I do respect the decision of what the jury made in terms of the Armor's, sentencing. Because it's the jury, right? Like, the jury's a jury. The state prosecutor requested that the Armor would be remanded. And then in this trial, the court, whether or not she had it out for the state prosecutor, did not, the state prosecutor did not do anything about that. She was just kind of like floundering. And even on that third day, she was floundering then because she even took the fucking witness stand. She took the fucking witness stand. And the defense attorney, Alec Baldwin's defense attorney, was like, shit, I mean, fuck, if you're going to be, going on the witness stand, then I guess I can cross-examine you. Meaning, like, as a lawyer, I can ask you fucking questions and shit. And of course, he grilled her hard. And rightfully so. And this was definitely something one for the books. It just like it even now I'm still like, fuck. This sucks. And it doesn't take away from the fact that like this incident happened in the first place, but it was the state's job to seek justice. And to show that none of this will fucking fly. But Alec Baldwin is free. He even has his own reality show. I learned that on Emily Baker's stream. That's crazy. He has a reality show. Are you fucking kidding me? And look, do I hate Alec Baldwin? No, I don't hate him. I think that he was gross and negligent, along with the Armor, along with the first AD, along with the prop master, along with the prop house. It's just what it is. Like like I've seen people actively get fired in the middle of a set, and I've told this story before in Get Realisms, but I'll share it with y'all. One of the times that I worked with an Armor. This Armor was working with inert rounds with with dummy rounds, and this kid was using a weapon like in the scene, and the kid he was like 19, maybe 20, and this was a kind of like a it was like a kind of like a cop drama. It was like a I don't know what you call it. It was a short film, essentially. It was a short. But they hired a Armor. And I couldn't tell you the title of it, even if my life depended on it. I don't remember. But the Armor was a day player, meaning like he just showed up one day to, because this was like a stunt scene. So, there were going to be guns and safety and blah, 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 blah. Right. And he ran through all of that and said specifically, do not point this gun at anybody. And said that twice to the crew and to this actor in this story. And the actor did not follow any of that and started pointing the gun everywhere and kind of like was like a child holding a gun, It was just kind of like pointing at everything and everywhere, at crew members, even at an actor, child actor. It was bad. There was nothing in that to kill somebody, but it's still a functioning gun. You can, if you brought something with you, although that would be fucking wild to do that. That would be insane to do. Nobody did, but it doesn't matter, right? Safety is safety. And you don't do that at all. And this kid got a first strike from the first AD saying that, hey, don't do that. And the first AD left to do something. Might have went to the bathroom, I don't know. But the armor clocked this kid who was pointing the gun again at crew members. And so he walked up to him. And I saw this. He walked up to him, and the kid just gave him his gun and, changed his costume and left the fucking set. And I was like, whoa, what just happened? And I asked the armor, cool dude. He was like, yeah, I fired him. I was like, what? You fired him? He was like, yeah, that's my gun. I gave him the safety briefing 2 times, and he didn't follow it. He got a first strike, and he kept doing it. So I said, "You're out. You're gone." And that slowed down the day for sure, but it didn't matter because that is a blatant disregard of safety, literally. And he was gone, straight up, because the armor has that level of power on a shoot. And anybody in the crew, if they felt like something was unsafe, they can freely and safely talk about that with, your UPM or your producer or whoever who is above the line. Meaning above the line is producer, first AD, second AD, basically the ones that are in charge of the schedule and all that and running the set and the budget and all that. Like, those are people above the line. I am technically below the line. I just work in the art department, So, yeah, it was kind of like a wake up call to see that literally in action. And then 2 years later, this trial comes around, and boy, was I upset with the Armorer trial and especially with Alec's trial. And yeah, again, I don't hate Alec Baldwin. It's just the blatant disregard would make me think twice about working with him or anybody like him who just do not give a shit about the safety concerns, because Alec mentioned in the Stephanopoulos interview and countless other police interviews from body cam footage said that, I've worked with guns my entire career and I never had this happen before. It's like, you worked with guns your entire career, never bothered to check a fucking gun or requested a different gun because, you're running a fucking rehearsal and this shit happens? Like, that makes no sense. Sorry, I'm a little heated and I'm zinned up right now. Okay. So I'm feeling a little frisky. But I mean, that's it. It's just like, do I hate Alec Baldwin's movies? No. I watched Beetlejuice not too long ago, and I thought that's a great fucking movie, and I thought he was good in it, a little dopey, but yeah, it was still a fun movie. There's a few Alec Baldwin films that I definitely enjoyed, but him as a person, I don't really respect that much. Um, you know, I don't. I respect safety over everything else, no matter what. Because again, how fucking horrible to die over something that we're just playing pretend for. You know what I mean? And VFX costs barely anything. Like there's like assets like on Adobe Premiere Pro, you know, that you can use that kind of simulate, you know, gunfire. But the defense for other filmmakers say that like, well, you need that kickback. It's all about the kickback. It's all about, you know, the actors, you know, showing that they're firing off a real gun. You know, it's like, I don't know. It's like kickback is one thing, but like if you can cheat it or do something where, you know, it shows that they are firing the gun no matter what, or, you know, whatever, you don't need a literal like smoking gun, you know, to show like kickback from actors. I just feel like that's a little silly. You know, when you're working with weapons like that, you know, it's just like you got the point already. The audience is not gonna, you know, be in disbelief that they are firing a gun or not firing a gun because it's implied. If it's implied, it shows and it plays and it's part of the overall, you know, thread of the story, I guess, you know, and that includes Rust because it's a Western, right? So you're working with revolvers and shit and you're on horseback and yada, yada, yada. And I'm sure there was plenty of horror stories, that first AD who we interviewed, my mentor and I, interviewed, and yeah, like you know, there's lots of safety concerns that don't just only fall under, you know, weapons. There's also like, you know, you're driving a car and, this first AD, Glenn mentioned, free driving. And that is like when you have a stunt car and you are the driver is literally driving with traffic, like with like other drivers who aren't part of the fucking shoot. And that is a major, like a huge fucking danger for camera operators, or anybody in that car. Because, well, one, you're handling, you know, very expensive cameras and equipment that are thousands of dollars. You don't want them damaged. Sure, fine, whatever. But more importantly, way more importantly, you have human lives in that. And once you are compromising the safety of other people, including yourself, you already lost. You lost the plot. It's done. It's over. Because you felt like, you know, or anybody feels like, you know, they are above safety. You're not. They're not. No one is. Not even myself. You know what I mean? Like, ideally, you shouldn't be running on set. I definitely ran on set before, and I've definitely gotten yelled at before. You know, so it's just one of those things where it's the little things that count. And once there is control of it, the set usually runs smoothly, no matter what, because you already ran through all these things. Everyone is aware of it. Everyone's briefed on it. Everyone, you know, knows the ramifications of, you know, disregarding safety, right? So, and that goes all the way, like, to fucking production assistants, PAs. You know, they are also too aware of it and too can voice their opinions if something is unsafe, you know? So, and that's exactly what this crew did with Rust. So there were a lot of details in this that I could get into, but we're already like kind of pushing an hour, and I'm kind of a little gassed out. But essentially, like, there were a lot of crew members on this Rust set that voiced their opinions, not just the camera department. It was a lot of people, from script supervisor who placed the 911 call, to camera operators, to key grips, you know, to, you know, of course, the camera department. All in all, this was a major fuck up. both on the film side, but legally speaking, this was a major fuck up. A technicality, if you will, that was completely overlooked by the state prosecutor, which is insane. And this is the result of it. Alec Baldwin walks free while the armorer is still in jail. And I'm not defending the armor by any stretch of the imagination. I just feel like if you're going to be doing that, you should apply that same level of aggressiveness to the people who participated in that incident, of every party. And there was none of that. So, is Alec Baldwin going to be back on a film set anytime soon? I don't know. And I'd be remiss to say that I don't think a lot of productions or anybody would see this case and hire somebody like Alec Baldwin on a film shoot. Although I don't know, and I haven't really worked on any big budget projects. The closest to like big budget projects I've worked on are commercials, but that's also very far and few between amongst other commercials and short films that I've worked on and whatnot, and features, like independent features. So yeah, that is the end of it. That is the end of the Rust trial. Who knows what will be the future of all this? Does that affect me in my job? Not really. However, this is me just voicing my opinion because, all filmmakers matter. And when I say filmmaker, I mean it like in the term of like every single person of every single position on a film shoot, on a film set, I count as filmmakers, including production assistants. They're also part of it, right? So they too are filmmakers. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of this could have been avoided, and it wasn't, and it was very unfortunate. And my heart is with Hutchins' family. Yeah, it was just a horrible tragedy that befalled this very gifted Ukrainian director of photography or cinematographer. So yeah, that is about it. Sorry about the the seriousness of this, but I felt like this was important, and it was so important that I didn't want to avoid it. And out of all the episodes that I've ran my mouth about, I knew this was important, and I was going to talk about it even yesterday, but I was talking about Deadpool shit. We were having fun. We're gonna keep doing fun shit. You know what I mean? But this is very important, and that's kind of like the focus that I want this podcast to have, is that I want people to be informed, and I want I want to show a perspective of a filmmaker, but also like just kind of pointing out the key details that are important when it comes to running a film set or doing any of it. And if I have any stories or any history that I would bring up, I definitely will, and we're definitely going to have fun with it for sure. It's just for this episode specifically, I definitely wanted to talk about it because it's very, very fucking important. So with that being said, I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching and hearing me gab about this. So yeah, I'll see y'all next time. Stay safe out there. Drink lots of water. Don't talk to strangers, and wash your hands. You filthy animals. Okay, bye.